The Defence Committee of the Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission is meeting in Cape Town to discuss the goals of the Defence Cooperation Memorandum of Understanding that was signed in 2013. The agreement covers areas such as training, medical, space technology, research and development, as well as information sharing.
The DEFCOM meeting is the third since the cooperation agreement was signed in 2013. The committee leaders agree that the fruits will be far-reaching.
Our two countries will continue to work together in ensuring peace, security, stability, and prosperity on the African continent, as these are the prerequisites for our long-term socio-economic development of our two peoples.
I agree with you completely that African countries would need to collaborate more on the enhancement of peace, security, and development on the African continent, including looking inwards for their defense requirements. It is important to note, Co-Chair, that DEFCON has provided Nigeria the platform for acquiring a number of military equipment from South Africa, including boats for the Nigerian Navy and ammunition for the Nigerian Air Force.
Nigeria, on its part, we're told, also offers its immense expertise in peacekeeping and counter-terrorism operations, as well as a professional military. There is, however, an area Nigeria hopes for deeper cooperation.
The one specific area where we want to see more progress is in the military-industrial cooperation level. We're hoping that DICON in Kaduna would be the hub for what we perceive as the establishment of our military-industrial complex. And so far, DICON and Denel, a South African enterprise, government-owned enterprise, have been engaged in a lot of discussion.
Both sides believe that the implementation of agreed set-out goals is important so that the meetings won't be mere talk sessions. The meeting has now broken up into military-to-military training and industry work group sessions, which will report to plenary on Wednesday. From the Western Cape Town, South Africa, Betsy Dibia, Channels Television News.
The United Nations has launched a new effort to ending years of war and political upheaval in Libya. Delegates from the country's rival parliaments have come together for talks in neighboring Tunisia on the hopes of agreeing on amendments that will breathe life into a stalled peace plan. The effort aims to end the turmoil that developed in Libya after a 2011 NATO-backed uprising ended Muammar Gaddafi's 42-year rule, giving space to Islamist militants and smuggling networks that have sent thousands of migrants to Europe. Under the new United Nations plan, once amendments have been agreed, a national conference drawing a much larger number of representatives from across Libya is meant to select members of a transitional government that would run the country until the elections. Well, joining us now is Dr. Gani Lawal, the former Deputy Principal Representative of Nigeria to Algeria, and he joins us here in the studio. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
So the United Nations said its roadmap for peace in Libya wasn't working, and in its current form, unveiling these new plans to revamp the agreement and unify the North African country. Are you optimistic of a positive result?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic, but it has some stages that it has to take. For instance, you're talking of having an election next June or July. I don't see the possibility of that. And I always believe that if any change or agreement has to take place anywhere, it has to be owned by the people. The two factions, that the United Nations are bringing together are not the only group that are bearing arms in Libya. So there should be a process whereby a lot of groups has to be disarmed. Perhaps maybe under an arrangement of shared leadership between Sarraj and Field Marshal Haftar, to be able to bring some civil life into Libya before we can begin to talk about even electing anybody.
So don't you think that the United Nations would have put this into consideration with this new plan?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You cannot enforce, any resolution of crisis on people. This resolution must come from within. It should be owned by the people. This is exactly what I'm saying. That one would like to see a situation whereby we have a kind of a power sharing agreement between the two principal powers, and bringing up a civil rule in the country. After which we can then talk about elections or choosing representatives. You can't just those two people. They are principal, right? But there are some still other groups that has to be disarmed, before we can begin to talk about, there must be civil life before we talk about choosing a representative.
So in your opinion, the delegates that have, from the different rival parliaments that have come together for peace in Tunisia, do you think they're all encompassing of all the groups? Because the U.S. has said they welcome the support of the United Nations with this action plan, but they won't support airing, groups or from Libya if they do not adhere.
Yeah, that is United Nations speaking now. But United Nations is not Libyan people. Every society, or every group within Libya that are bearing arms, they have their grievances. This is what I'm trying to say, that these grievances must be settled under a kind of arrangement, And that arrangement that I'm trying to recommend or to suggest is that if these two principal parties, can have a power sharing agreement whereby they can disarm all those small groups and bring some civil life, into the country. Then we can begin to talk of moving forward. This is what I see. But the visit of the British Prime Minister, the last week, that one holds more hope, because they are the one that created the mess there. France, Britain, and US, they created the mess in Libya. But now they have now decided that, okay, we want to come and help them in their own self-enlightened interest, because it has been discovered now that all these terrorist activities taking place in France and Britain, they find some expression, from Libya, because a lot of people are armed, a lot of radicals, are let loose as a result of the situation in Libya. So it is in the self-enlightened interest of Britain and France to have some kind of stability, in Libya, in order to forestall terrorism and this, what do you call it, illegal, is it illegal or improper migration, people dying in the Mediterranean and things like that. So it is in their own interest. So I think Britain is giving them £9 million, in order to do all this. And I believe that that's also a way forward.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Gani Lawal.
Yeah.
He is a former Deputy Principal Representative of Nigeria to all Daria. Thank you for joining us on the program. Still to come on the program, an orthopedic technician in Uganda gives hope to people living without limbs, producing prosthetics from waste plastics. Do join us again.